and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, we're here back again discussing the COVID. We're discussing whether there will be a third wave or not. Experts now, of course, say yes, definitely there will be a third wave. Some people say it's coming in at the end of August. Will it be as dangerous and deadly as the second wave? That's something we need to discuss. And of course, also we need to find out whether the vaccinations are working. That's really the most important point of discussion today. Will we be able to vaccinate ourselves in time? And will the vaccinations actually be efficient and be able to counter the third wave? Has it already come? A lot of people are saying that the onset. There have been about 19 cases of the COVID third wave that is already happening. What is the difference between the third wave and the second wave? Well, I have with me a panel of experts and doctors who are going to help me figure it out. Joining me is Dr. Harsh Mahajan, founder and of Dr. of Mahajan Imaging. I have Dr. Romel Tikku. He is director of internal medicine at Max, and Dr. Tarun Sani. He is a senior consultant internal medicine at Apollo, and also he heads the hyperbaric medicine unit. But Dr. Tikku, is the third wave going to happen, and when is it going to happen? And second question is, how serious will it be compared to the second wave?
Well, third wave is a possibility with the rising number of Delta variant and the fact that the virus is mutating. So the probability of third wave is always a real risk for India, especially. And now globally, the cases are rising, and they're already going through, different countries in the world are going through a third wave. If you look at UK, if you look at US, there is a rise, there's a spike in the cases. And even with us, and the fact that the economy has opened again, and people are again, they've become complacent, and they're holidaying, not wearing any masks, and the fact that our vaccination drive is a bit slow at the moment, which might pick up soon, and everything together might lead to another spike. But let me tell you, we are still in this middle of a second wave, and we are having some 40,000 odd cases even now. So it's too far-fetched to talk about the third wave. And even now, 80% of the cases though are coming from these six states, which are the southern states, Maharashtra and Orissa. And now it's going even to the rural areas. 45% of cases every day are coming from the rural areas. And the Northeast, which was spared till now, and we are having a spike there as well. Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Tripura, there are cases rising there, though not to that extent. And with Maharashtra and Kerala, it remains a mystery. 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 every day. So we still are in the middle of this, and we need to handle this. But yes, eventually cases will go down, but there might be a spike again, because the same reasons which led to the second wave, because after the first wave, there was a decline in the numbers, and then people again started rejoicing in the mutant strains and the fact that vaccination was not happening at that time, just started. So will lead to a potential third wave. So we have to ensure that it doesn't happen. We've seen what devastation this can do. And if you ask me, it might happen at some point. It's inevitable and imminent. Maybe ending August, maybe September. But I personally don't think that it will be as bad as the second wave. Definitely not, because majority of the population, we talk about Delhi, have had the infection, and we vaccinated, about 90 lakh people have been vaccinated. So it does give you some sort of protection. And Delhi and Kerala have done a good job as far as vaccination is concerned. And the other states which have done well are Punjab, Karnataka, Rajasthan, but there are some states which have the biggest shortfall of vaccines. If you talk about Bihar, if you talk about West Bengal, UP, Jharkhand, even Rajasthan, the numbers are very low, and we need to ramp up the vaccination, because eventually it's going to be the vaccination which will take us through, and we need more and more vaccines. I mean, it's taking a little while for Pfizer to come in. Johnson & Johnson has also applied for emergency use authorization, but Moderna has already been given. So in the next few weeks, what we should focus on is basically vaccination and ramping up the numbers. Because if you look at UK and US, I mean, they're having a steady increase in the number of cases, but it's not proportional. I mean, there is no increase in mortality or hospitalizations proportionate to that. So which tells you how important it is to get vaccinated. And all these vaccines which have received emergency use authorization, they have a very good efficacy against death. I mean, 90 to 95% prevention of death with these vaccines if you take 2 shots. So that's why it becomes all the more important for a country like ours to really focus on the vaccination. That's why the Prime Minister himself is being so proactive. He's spoken to the heads of the state today, also those 6 states, and previously he spoke to the Northeast heads of the state. So that's what we need to do, apart from what the government is doing, and I'm sure they're working on increasing the number of vaccination. Also,
Vaccinations is the answer, yeah.
we also need to do our bit.
As you've been telling us, Dr. Mahajan, the vaccination rate, it has to be, we are told that we just crossed about 35 lakh vaccinations so far. We need to, at least for 30%, we need to, ramp up, say, 3 lakh per day?
See, if we talk about the country, we are doing anywhere between 35 to 40 lakhs a day. And if we look at the vaccine that was available to the country for July, the government had said in June that there will be about 12 crore vaccine shots that will be available. And so 31 days in July and an average of 38, 39 lakhs, you will use up the entire 12 crores. Now, come August till December, the government has said that they will be able to get 135 crore vaccine jabs, and out of which 50 crores are going to come from Covishield, 40 crores will be from Covaxin, about 30 crores from BioE, about 5 crores from this DNA vaccine, and 10 crores is Sputnik, making a total of 135 crores. And if we add the numbers that have already been done, about 38 crores that have been done till now, and about 7 crores more, which hopefully will get done in the rest of July, we are looking at a total of 180 crores till December. That is provided we do get the vaccines as the government has projected. With 180 crores, you would be able to vaccinate 90 crore adults of this country, which is nearly the number that we have. So the projections are very good. And in case we are actually able to get that many vaccines, we would achieve the target by end of the year as the government has wants and has projected. And in this, we are not looking at Moderna, we are not looking at Pfizer, we are not looking at Johnson & Johnson. Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson probably haven't even applied for emergency use authorization in the country currently. So the problem that we've seen of late is that the numbers in the private vaccination centers have fallen off as compared to what they were in June. And this is a matter of concern because looking at the pricing policy of the government, the cost at which they are buying the vaccine, they are getting the vaccines at around 150 or 200 rupees, whereas the private sector, which is supposed to do 25% by volume, is getting the Covishield at 630 rupees and Covaxin at 1260 rupees. So what we are seeing that even those of us who have enough vaccine jabs available to us are not able to actually vaccinate because people are not coming in. There could be two reasons for it. One, the high cost, because for Covishield it's 780 rupees, for Covaxin it's 1410 rupees. So it could be the high cost. The second could be vaccine hesitancy. And the third could be that because of the high cost, people are wanting to wait because the government is going to be giving it free of cost, and 75% of those vaccines are going to come in from the government. So they say, let me wait a week or 2 or 3. Even if the government doesn't have it now, I can get a jab 2 or 3 weeks later. Now, if this is actually a trend, I mean, we are presuming that this is the trend because there are some private hospitals which have lakhs of, the vaccine available to them and doing only a few hundred or 1,000 a day. if this is actually a trend which is real, then it's a matter of concern, because the private sector, which has the wherewithal to do 25% of vaccination, but if people are not coming in, then they will not be able to fulfill the projections that the government has, and that may become a problem. So, even if in the coming months we have much more of the vaccine available, and if the onus is left on the government sector alone, 75% which are free for the citizens, and if the private sector is not able to contribute enough, then we will have a shortfall. Though the government sector showed on June 21st, when the country did over 91 lakh jabs, that they have the logistics, both on the supply side as well as on administration of doses. Out of the 60,000 centers through which the jabs were given on June 21st, 58,000 were government centers and only 2,000 were private centers. But this differential pricing of vaccines, which the government hopes will be able to offset some of the costs for the vaccine manufacturers, if the private sector doesn't pick up those 25%, then they may face some problems in supplying the government at whatever is the cost that has been agreed between them.
Interesting insight into the pricing strategy. But Tarun, in terms, Dr. Sani, first of all, welcome to the roundtable. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
And where do you stand on this argument of herd immunity versus the more it spreads, the more it mutates, and the more there is a problem?
No, I think the first point about the more it spreads, the more it mutates, and we don't know what the next mutant would be. We are now assuming that every subsequent mutant would be milder than the previous mutant because it would have run out of virulence and it would be addressing a population which already had some degree of immunity. But the second wave disproved that completely. The second wave virus was the mutant, or the Delta variant was much, much more potent. And it came in with a extremely unexpected presentation clinically. And even after the recovery, there is still a lot of morbidity which is taking place. The post-COVID issues, whether it's neurological, whether it's to do with memory, it's to do with energy levels, people with tachycardia, people with vague muscular pains. So every subsequent mutant should actually be milder than the previous. But I think that is where the caution has to be exercised irrespective and prevent the mutant from going from one version to the other. Today it is Delta 1, Delta Alpha, Beta, Lambda. It will keep going on and on. We don't know which of these mutants might again turn to be extremely virulent and cause havoc again as what happened in the second wave. The issue about, whether are we in the third wave already or is the third wave going to come? I mean, whatever we are learning is that the newer corona symptoms, the people who are having COVID now are having milder symptoms. Those earlier symptoms of, lack of smell, heaviness in the chest, drop in oxygen saturations, that is probably not happening. A lot of them are having milder symptoms, just sore throat, cough and cold, which would pass as any cough and cold, and a lot of them are not coming forward to be either tested or be able to be diagnosed. So I personally feel there is some degree of third wave which is happening, whether it will peak by early August or middle of August. But I think by August, we definitely would be seeing the impact of it. Herd immunity is critical. Eventually, if you, like Dr. Tikku mentioned, you look at the UK model, people in Wembley, people in Lords. I mean, we haven't heard of, hundreds of people having been infected there after those two major sports events, and which they were attributing, and which is the reason they let go of the mask rule. They said we've got adequate amount of herd immunity to prevent serious disease from happening. The disease is happening. It's like a minor cough and cold, which we'll treat like any other cough and cold. But we're not getting people who are being hospitalized. We are not getting people who are dying. So we are, equipped to let go of the precautions which we were doing. And I think that in India is our best hope, to vaccinate enough people And if we can't vaccinate them, let them get infected, so that they at least have an immunity, which is not the right way to do it. But I mean, absolutely incorrect. But at least, people will start getting immunity because they're infected. And only then will we reach a stage when, the R factor will come down and the number of replications will come down, the number of cases will come down, severity will come down. And like Dr. Mahajan said, if we can achieve even some of the targets, we can't achieve 100% target of what the government is promising, looking at what's happened in July. But even if we can get somewhere 50, 40% there, then maybe towards the end of the year, we can have some respite, saying that the disease is there, but it's not severe. The disease is there, it's not killing us. So it's fine. We can open out our life a little bit.
Well, this week we're discussing the possibility of or the eventuality of a third wave, and also will it be as dangerous as a second, and what will the vaccinations help? Dr. Tikku, we're seeing the third wave happening in other places also. But before that, I wanted to ask you is what is this current situation now? Are your hospitals as full? Are the long COVID cases easing up a bit?
Well, presently we're hardly seeing any COVID cases in hospitals. I'm sure most of the hospitals have hardly any cases. Admissions are not happening. And even with the virtual consults, we get to know there are hardly any consults coming. So it's the post-COVID that we are dealing with. And as Dr. Sani said, lots of issues happening with patients post-COVID. And long COVID is something that is difficult to deal with. There's no specific treatment. And you have this ongoing fatigue, breathlessness, and insomnia, and then your appetite. And now some of them are having gastric symptoms, appetite, not diarrhea. And it's an ongoing process. And even if you had asymptomatic or mild COVID, you still end up with long COVID. And nobody knows how long it's going to last. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, we still don't know because we're still in the process of finding out. And the fact that children also need to be vaccinated and we need to have vaccines for them is also another worry. A lot of patients keep asking us because at some point you have to reopen the schools, and that is something which is really needed. Children have been at home for the last 1.5 years now. But coming to the management, right now we are not dealing with any patients. Hopefully we should not have to deal with too many patients in future. But as we've been discussing, the potential of having a third wave is always there. And the focus, as I said, remains on vaccination. As Dr. Mahajan rightly said, there's a lot of hesitancy. We keep talking about the shortage and the slow pace, but what about the hesitancy? Even educated people, even some healthcare workers are hesitant. And that's what we have to focus on. We have to raise more awareness. There should be more awareness campaigns, and you should have to have engaged communication with people and take them into confidence, give them the examples of UK, US, and tell them that this is what is happening. People are not dying there. And ours is a huge country, all the more a reason that we should be very, very aggressive with vaccination because you know what this virus can do and we've suffered. And the fact that ours is a big country and we manufacture vaccines, we're the largest manufacturer of vaccines, gives us a tremendous advantage. And we can do it. Our vaccination drive has always been so successful with children. With adults, we've not done much, but this gives us a chance. And to vaccinate 100 crore people in the next 6 months is going to be a humongous task, let me tell you. And 30, 40 lakhs is not less. We say it's less, but just because the population is high, we have to go to the next level, which is 80 lakhs, 1 crore a day, which will happen with time. And maybe we need to open it up further, maybe some more private centers, maybe we have to make the process more smooth. Maybe the COVID app or whatever is making it difficult for people to register and things like that. Maybe more walk-ins happening. But the bottom line is that to prevent any third wave from happening, we have to be extremely vigilant. Now we're doing more genome sequencing. There's a lot of stuff happening there. The government is very proactive. And fortunately, there's been a steady decline in the numbers of cases, especially North India and Central India, though the southern states and Northeast is having some sort of a spike, but I'm sure we'll be able to handle it. And we again have to ramp up our healthcare infrastructure because potentially if there could be a third wave and if some monstrous mutation happens, then we can end up the way we did. But personally, I don't think that will happen, but we have to be vigilant. We have to be prepared, and vaccination is going to take us through. And hopefully for, as I said, for children also we'll have some vaccine in place. But till then, people have to follow the safety protocols, which they've not been doing, unfortunately. Time and again, we've been saying it, but they're still going to their holidaying, not wearing a mask, fine. There is a sense of fatigue in people because it's been 1.5 years, but you also have to look back and see what the second wave did to us. Almost every family lost somebody. So we have to give importance to that, and we have to be extremely vigilant and focus on saving more people as healthcare workers, and people have to follow the norms. And government is being very proactive. So I would say the bottom line is focus on vaccination, vaccination, and vaccination. That's the only thing which will get us out of this.
But Dr. Mahajan, you've been on a lot of government councils also. So what is the strategy that, when do they think with 30% vaccinations, will it be safe to open up schools? What are you hearing? What is the thinking?
I think there's no definite answer to your question, because this virus has always surprised us. And what we found with the opening up of schools in the West is that they had to very rapidly close them again. In the West, in some parts, the above 12, the adolescents are getting vaccinated also. In our country, below 18 are completely unvaccinated. And so and even the adults, as you see, there's a small percentage of the population which is currently vaccinated. So the young, we do know, do not get very serious disease. But if they give it to their teachers, to other workers in schools and colleges, then that would be a problem. And so I think the decision is still very much open. And I would say no one really knows when the schools will be opened up. Of course, there is a growing realization that children are losing out big time. There are emotional problems that are happening by them not meeting their friends, not meeting their classmates, having this online classes all the time. They are losing out a very large part, not only of learning but of growth and development. But it's, I think, still premature when the country still is having about 40,000 cases a day, which, compared to 4 lakh, which we had 2 months ago, seems small, but 40,000 is not a small number. And with the variants which are around, we do know that the Delta Plus is there. We don't know much about it, whether it's more contagious, whether it's more virulent. The numbers are still small, but we do not want to give it any chance to be able to, run riot again. And that's why I think it's prudent to be cautious rather than try to open up and and having to close down again after another wave hits us. As Dr. Sani said, the third wave is going to happen. When it happens, time will tell us, but it will happen. The onus is on not only the government, but each one of us as citizens to see that it's a wave which we thwart, that it's, if we can convert it into a ripple rather than a wave, that'll be the best for the country. There is the economy which we have to look at, which we have to consider. So many people have lost their jobs. So many companies have shut down, and there is an urgent need to open them. But it's a balancing act which is very, very tough. And the West is 2-3 months ahead of us in everything, and we get to learn from them. One thing is for sure, and there's a new statistic which has come out of the US, which is that if we look at the number of people who've died between January and June, 99.5% of them were unvaccinated. So I would say that for all those who are not vaccinated, you have to get vaccinated. There is now no argument about not getting vaccinated, the vaccines not being good enough, and all of that. Covishield has been used in the UK, where again, the statistics are similar. What limited statistics we have from India regarding the efficacy of the vaccines that we've given are that they really prevent serious disease and especially death. So,
And that I'm going to cut you a bit short on the importance of vaccination. Is the last word that both of you said. Dr. Sani, one quick question to you is, we've been talking about even other diseases, whether it's chikungunya, dengue, everything has an after effect, which carries on for a long time. So should we put the long COVID after effects into the same category, or are these more serious, or we don't know enough?
No, I think from whatever we've now experienced, since February last year when we've been seeing this disease, the long COVID was really not part of the first wave. We didn't hear much about long COVID in the first wave. We only started learning about long COVID in the second wave. And like Dr. Tikku said, we don't know how long it's going to last. Is the long COVID being 3 months, 6 months, 1 year? What symptom is there today? What symptom is there tomorrow? So I would put the symptoms of the long COVID really specific to the second wave. And it's definitely different from what we've seen as residual effects of chikungunya or any of the others there. It's definitely a lot more morbid. I mean, the morbidity is very high because weakness, inability to concentrate, inability to sleep, still being breathless, having tachycardia and being on drugs. These are all symptoms which reduce the efficiency of an individual. And that is really worrying because they're not being able to come back to work with the same amount of enthusiasm and energy which we would expect after a lockdown. So this is different, and it seems to be lingering on for much longer, and newer things coming out every day which we are learning. So it's definitely different.
And a quick one last in terms of vaccination, there are some doubts, not globally, regarding Covaxin. How do you handle that? It's not. Yeah.
No, it's a matter of time. They will have to accept Covaxin, like we've had to accept the Sinovac and the Sputnik and the others. It's just a matter of time. They're sort of clutching at it, saying that there's not enough phase 3 trials on it. But I think, if we go from the time we started delivering Covaxin, I mean, the number of people who have been exposed to Covaxin is significantly higher, compared to the COVID. I mean, compared to where we started. The only thing which is slightly surprising and which might be a little reason why the Covaxin is not so popular is the price point. I mean, it's definitely much more expensive than the Covishield and the Sputnik, which are now the 3 vaccines which are available. So that may be a reason why people are not taking enough of Covaxin. But it's a matter of time. The WHO or any other international organization will not be able to deny, because Bharat Biotech's a good company. I mean, it has a proven track record, and the government has endorsed it. ICMR has endorsed it. So there's really no reason why it would not be accepted. It's just a matter of time.
On that note, I think the takeaway really is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. That's the only answer left to handle the situation that we're all in. And hope to see you all again in happier times. And that's it for now. Thank you for watching this show.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.